matters involving 160 Densmore Road or 951 and 1027 Thomas Avenue and 45 Pattonwood Drive, the Densmore Road and the Lighthouse Point projects. The seeker is still not completed on those, and I do not anticipate that we will be doing anything with respect to those matters tonight, other than, as the planning board did, tabling them until the seeker is completed and there's actually something for us to do, rather than continue month to month without taking...
Be brought up?
No,
Not at all?
no, because there's nothing for us to decide.
How
So-
long does it take them to decide anything? What are they trying to do, wear down the residents?
No, there's a required process that has to be completed before we can do anything. And therefore,
You better start doing something in the running point and start
Well-
listening to the people.
ma'am, the reason that we're not doing anything is because they haven't completed what they need to do. And rather than have you come out every month and tell us that you're opposed to it, and them tell us why they think it's a great thing that someday we ought to approve, we're going to wait until they have something for us to actually consider. And
I
when
don't
we,
think they know the word no.
well,
No,
okay,
no.
ma'am, I was just trying to save you time.
There's an election coming up, you better all start looking for new jobs.
I share your opinion, ma'am.
Enough is enough. They
All right.
keep notices, keep running your butt. For what?
Well, ma'am, I could have waited until we were done with the hearing and told you then. I'm trying to save you the time.
But did you save me gas or anything coming here? And my time to come here?
Next time, ma'am, I'll try and make sure that we let you know.
I'll give you my
Okay?
phone number.
That would be fine. You can give it to Ms. Ivers or to Ms.
They better
Martello.
start listening to the residents of this community.
Ma'am, I understand your position, ma'am. Thank you.
No, I don't think you do.
Oh, yes, I do.
I've been living here for 50
Ma'am,
years.
that's enough
And
now.
I've had enough.
Now we will call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to welcome everybody to the August meeting of the Irondequoit Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we get underway, I just want to let you know a few administrative details. First off, the fire exit is located to your left. In the event of a fire, you will be notified by an announcement. If notified, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to this exit. The elevators will not be available for your use. Use either the north or the south stairs to leave the building. Meetings are being recorded by our secretary this evening. Donna is assuming that role for the purpose of a record in minutes. So when you come to the podium, please identify yourself each time so that she's clear who's speaking, and speak clearly into the microphone. We will follow the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. Extra copies of the agenda are available near the door. Once the case has been called, the applicant or their representative will come to the podium, identify himself or herself, state their address, and present their case. The zoning board members have the opportunity to question or engage in discussion with the applicant during their presentation. Once that has been completed, we'll open it up to the public hearing for 3 categories of public input so far. Those who wish to speak in favor of the application would line up, come forward, identify yourself by your name and address, and then share your opinions. When we've completed everyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application, we'll then open the floor for those who wish to speak in opposition to the application. Same process. Line up along the wall, come forward to the microphone, identify yourself, and tell us what you wish to have us consider in opposition to the application. After we've completed that, then we open it up to those who aren't in favor or opposed but just want to talk to us about it. After we've heard from them, then we'll give the applicant the opportunity to come and address any points that were raised during the public hearing portion. Once that has been completed, the case will be closed, and we'll move on to the next case. Once we've completed all the cases on the agenda, the board will take a brief recess. After the recess, we will resume and deliberate with respect to those cases on the agenda for which action is necessary, and we will take them in the order in which they appear on the agenda and for which the applicant or their representative remains present. So if the applicants for the first two cases have left and the applicant for the third case is still present, we would take the third case first, and then when we've completed the cases for all those who were present, then we would go back to the top and go through the cases again in the order that they appeared on the agenda. There's no further public input allowed during that portion unless it's specifically and expressly requested by the board. People are welcome to stay and listen to the deliberation. If you wish to leave and are interested in learning what the results are, you can either catch that on TV or you can call the Planning and Zoning Department tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. As I indicated before the meeting got underway, the seeker process has not been completed for the Densmore Road and Thomas Avenue and Pattonwood Drive cases, also known as Lighthouse Point. So with respect to case PZB 1504-4, I'm moving that we table that case until such time as it's actually ready for us to take some action instead of coming back month after month without being able to take action. All those in favor? Or is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are 7 in favor, no opposed, nobody's absent, there are no abstentions. With respect to case ZB 1604-4, I would also move that we table this application. Again, this application was tabled by the planning board. The seeker process is not as yet completed. Therefore, there is no action that we could lawfully take with respect to this matter, rather than continue to have it appear on our agenda month after month without us being able to take action one way or another. I would think it would be more advisable to table it and have it reappear when we actually might be able to take some action. Is there a second for that? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and we are all 7 members present. At this point, it would be appropriate, although it would have been appropriate sooner, I apologize, to recognize Mr. Upson, who has joined us as an alternate board member to serve when a board member is unable to be present. He's here tonight since Mr. Hammond was unable to join us, and I suspect will join us here and there in the future as well. So, Mr. Upson, welcome to our board. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with you guys, too.
Now, having usurped that, we will go to the cases that are remaining on our agenda for tonight.
Upon the matter of request, ZB 1607-1, upon the matter of request by Chris Dorsey for an area variance to widen driveway and install a retaining wall with less than required side setbacks on premises 5150 and 5154 St. Paul Boulevard in an R2 residential district.
Good evening. My name is Chris Dorsey. I reside at 5150 St. Paul Boulevard.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. Mr. Dorsey, do you swear that everything you say, or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. This is an interesting group of properties.
It is, and it has been in my family since 1908. To the best of my knowledge, perhaps further back, but that's when the house that sits on a couple of the lots of the properties was built.
So you want to expand the driveway so it can serve the 2 houses that front St. Paul and put in a retaining wall so that it can be used without having the dirt cave in on it?
Correct. Well, to serve one house, in reality, the 5150 property.
Okay, the one to the south of the 2 that appear to be joined, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the access for the parcels that are in the back?
There is an easement from Washington Avenue.
Oh, okay, so they have.
They have a
access.
driveway back there already, yes.
Okay, all right.
And so I am looking to widen the driveway from an 8-foot driveway to what would be approximately 23 feet. That 23 feet would be 23 of what totals 91 feet across the entire frontage of the 4 properties. I considered getting the properties joined into one, but that became a little financially burdensome by the time I dealt with the county and with surveyors and the like, so I'm requesting the variance instead on the 5150 parcel.
And if you don't mind, I'm just going to interject here. We did approach the county and inquire as to whether or not what would be known as in past days as a courtesy merge could be performed here. And it's not a practice that the county undertakes any longer, because there is a history of those courtesy merges occurring and it not getting reported or recorded properly in the county real property office. And so now a re-subdivision map has to be prepared. It's a costly undertaking for the surveyor. And so this is, under normal circumstances, if that line down the center where the garage is wasn't there, there'd be no action before this board. The only reason they're here is because it's an unusual circumstance where a house was allowed to be constructed across a property line.
Thank you for clarifying. And just one follow-up question to make sure. I think you said 24-foot, I guess, width. No variance is needed for that. It's simply the 2-foot setback because the driveway is going to go to the property line. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
Yes.
So then it's within the limits of the driveway width.
Just want to make sure that people who are watching realize that the size of the driveway is acceptable. It's just a matter of that setback between the 2 parcels. If it was 1 parcel, you wouldn't be here.
Correct.
Correct.
Because we have a lot of issues with people widening driveways and wanting this and wanting that, but this matter will have no impact because we have nothing to say about the widening.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Step right up.
Good evening, my name is Ken Castle. I reside at 5162 St. Paul Boulevard, directly north of Chris's properties. My wife and I moved into our home in 1978. Chris's family had been in the house for 70 years prior to that. We've been proud to have contributed to the beautification of this neighborhood. I support approval of the variance as an improvement to the property and therefore to the entire neighborhood. Chris and Lisa have worked to update their home's interior since moving into the family's longtime home, and this project will greatly improve the exterior. Their proposal for the wider driveway is not out of character with several other properties in the neighborhood, and it's sure to be completed in good taste. Everything they do is very well done. And since the Dorseys own both lots involved in that matter, no other structure could fit on that northern space in front of the small cottage. I'm in full support and would urge the board to grant the variance.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone who would like to talk to us about this application? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter and move on to the next case.
Okay, thank you. ZB 1608-1, upon the matter of request by Jared and Shayna Renee for an area variance to install 6-foot-high front yard fencing on a corner lot, with nonconforming fencing type and exceeding maximum permitted height and linear footage on premises 2521 St. Paul Boulevard in an R1 residential district.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jared Renee. I'm here on behalf of, myself and my family here. We live at 2521 St. Paul Boulevard. We've been here, in Arundecoit most of my life, but
If I can interrupt you, would you raise your right hand?
Yes.
You swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, continue.
We are pretty much lifelong residents of Arundecoit. We love this town. Up until a few weeks ago, both sets of our parents lived here. My parents just recently moved to accommodate a business they loved here in Arundecoit, but they moved out of the area to get some land. But we'd like to erect a fence on our property in the interest of privacy and safety for a family. 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence. We're asking for an area variance for it.
I mean, I'll just cut to the chase. I don't recall ever approving a 6-foot-high stockade solid fence on a corner lot like that. Why would a 4-foot-high open-style fence not be adequate, recognizing you can plant bushes and things like that to obtain privacy?
Well, for a few different reasons. One of which, planting the bushes and the other things that you've mentioned wouldn't give us complete and total privacy. We have a boys' home across the street that is frequented by the police, by EMS calls. There's been numerous motor vehicle accidents. I feel that a 6-foot privacy fence with the larger posts and beams and things would, in some way, possibly prevent some sort of injury to my children if a vehicle ended up in my yard, which it has, as the result of a motor vehicle accident. Honestly, sound barrier, sound from the roadway. The road is very noisy. There was a burglary next door to my house a couple years ago. 6-foot-high privacy fence would also offer another added layer of protection and safety as far as becoming the victim of a crime. So I understand, I didn't know that you had never done that before, but I think it's the privacy and the safety factor is essential to our family.
I mean, but you can appreciate that when you drive up and down St. Paul, there are no 6-foot-high solid fences. I mean, there's one that is considerably set back from the street, but that solid 6-foot-high barricade-style fence changes the way. I mean, there's nothing like that along St. Paul. That's a concern that I have, is that the feel on St. Paul and in Arundecoit is open-style fences in the front, keep them short, plant bushes. That's what people pay higher tax dollars for, is to keep that park-like feel. And a 6-foot-high, solid, bright white fence along the road, in my opinion, is a deviation from what everyone else has been able to obtain in the town.
Okay. I would certainly be open to landscaping the front of it to soften, especially that east wall. First of all, the what would be considered the south wall would already be blocked by 2 tall pines and another tree that we have in our front yard, so you really wouldn't even see the south wall. The east wall, yes, you would. We'd be happy to landscape that. I think if you saw our property, we try to keep our property very nice. We like to contribute to the beautification of the neighborhood. That's not what we're trying to do here, and we certainly would take every effort to soften that look, I think, is what you're saying.
Well, that was the problem that I had as well when I looked at it. I envisioned this wall on the side of St. Paul Boulevard, and I look at, there's 2 houses that back up together on List Avenue, and because they're both corner lots, and the way the corner lot regulation for the town reads, they're both allowed to have, and they do have, 6-foot-high solid fences that run right along the sidewalk, and it looks like a wall.
Yeah.
And when you come down there, I just can't get the feeling, any feeling other than there's a wall that's been erected. And I'm not a big fan of walls, wherever they might be. And I understand why you want the fence. I understand the purpose that you want the fence to serve. My question to you is, can you accomplish the same thing with and I'm not so concerned about the 6 feet if the fence is an open style fence. You can plant whatever you want to plant in front of it. You can plant the solid row of arborvitae that are 6 feet tall, and you don't need any variance or anything at all to do that, and that would give you the privacy. I think you're looking for a little sense of security with a fence. So would an open 6-foot fence that you could landscape and do whatever you wanted to do with in terms of closing it up with natural plantings that don't look like a wall, couldn't that serve your purpose as well?
I believe, well, I don't know if it would or it wouldn't necessarily. I just know that from there's a commercial business across, there's a couple unique
Well, there's
things
the
to
gas
where,
station across the street, there's the group home across the street on the corner. You're on the curve, there have been cars that have lost control, that have had accidents. I understand all that, and I agree that you should be able to have some privacy and you should be able to have some security, especially since that's the part of your yard that your 4 children who are here with you tonight are going to be able to use if you're allowed to have the fence. But I also am concerned, part of what our obligation is to mitigate any variances that we grant to soften and mitigate the effect that it has on the neighborhood and the community, and to only grant what is necessary to accomplish the purpose for which the variance is sought. And that's why I brought up, are you open to a 6-foot open style fence? There are several fences along St. Paul that we've approved, not 6-foot high ones, but we just recently approved one down near St. Paul and Thomas, where they put up the fence. I think that was a 4-foot high fence that they put up, and they have a play structure for their kids in the front yard. We approved another one at the corner of Sagamore and Thomas. Again, I think that was a 4-foot one. We've approved one on Thomas Avenue. That one, was that one a 6-foot or a 4-foot? Mr. Rosengarten's.
That was, I think, 5 feet.
Was that 5 feet? So, I mean, we're not unsympathetic to having fences for purposes of children's safety and, safety of residents and things like that. So, and we're willing, and we have in the past granted variances for that. But the wall, the solid nature of it, that's what just, to me, just was like, there's got to be something different that wouldn't look like a wall.
let me ask you, there's a few different style of fencing that still provide, they come at different costs. Obviously, I've been researching to figure out, because that's obviously a concern on some level. I guess it has to be, but, is it?
Oh,
It's mine. No, I don't have any. So I'm just, maybe my big head. There's, I know, some of the fence manufacturers, Lowe's and things, has a Connecticut style where it's the planks are offset, so it would feel as much of a barrier. You can essentially, on some level, see through
at
them
a certain
to
angle,
some
you can
degree.
see through it, yeah.
Wouldn't give you as much of a wall appearance. I mean, if I
Also, some that have like 4 feet of solid fencing and then 2 feet of
like lattice or something.
lattice, yeah, or some kind of scallop but open 2 feet at the top.
I guess, and sticking with my original request, if I could just, I know we're going past the time, but just recently there was a gentleman who took his clothes off in the middle of St. Paul Boulevard and was walking right in front of my property. It didn't really matter if I had bushes there, but if there was a 4-foot fence, he was well in view of my entire family and my wife and a friend that she had over. So the idea is, and I know that's an isolated incident, and I work in law enforcement, so I'm not. I understand that that's an anomaly, but the privacy from those distractions. I mean, the area that we have to use right now that's actually fenced is like just over 300 square feet. It's just not enough for.
Like I said, I agree with the premise, and all the reasons are valid, and I recognize those, and I'd like to accommodate those for you. But the wall
Yeah.
is the problem.
Even with some landscaping and things in front of
I
them?
just
or-
have this vision of a wall, all of a sudden turn the corner on St. Paul and there's a wall. A solid white vinyl 6-foot wall. And my first reaction would be, what's that doing there?
Yeah.
And, but with, as I said, you can plant it. There's no limitation on planting 6-foot, 8-foot high bushes that block your yard in. That's not a wall. And it's what would be behind it that might be the issue. You want privacy, which you can achieve through a means that doesn't require a variance, and that's the plantings. You want some sense of security and safety for your children who are playing in the yard. That can be accomplished by a fence that's blocked. That's an open fence that's blocked by plantings, and it's a combination. Yes, it's more expensive, but it also preserves the residential character, particularly on the corner lot on a street like St. Paul. Having a solid 6-foot fence within a few feet of the curb and the sidewalk just doesn't seem.
There's a couple
Two things to that. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's all right. I'm over
Oh.
here. There's a couple of examples. One of them is just a little bit north of where you guys live. There's a house along the boulevard that has real tall bushes, nicely kept, and they're 6 foot tall, if not a little higher. Another great example of it, and I've used it in the past, is if you go down Portland Avenue by Kearney Drive. At the end of Kearney Drive, there's 2 corner houses, and they both have, and they're probably 10 foot tall, 8 to 10 foot tall, beautiful hedgerows on both sides, and you cannot see a thing in their backyard. And they take nice care of them. You don't have to paint them, but you do have to trim them. But again, it's a perfect example of you would have wonderful privacy, and then you can have a nice iron 4-foot fence to for safety on the inside or outside of those bushes for that matter. But again, aesthetically, we had a family that came to us at the corner of Lakeshore and Rock Beach that wanted to do something very similar to what you wanted to do for exactly the same reason. Had small children like you do, and it just was too large of a wall, for the lack of a better. I know it's a fence, but it was just too large for the character of the neighborhood. And out front, and again, it was their side yard like it is for you, exact same setup, and we had to take them down to a 4-foot fence. It's still, even though it's your side yard, technically it's your front yard the way the town reads it, but because it's your side yard, it's just but it's right out on St. Paul. It's considered a front yard, and it's just too tall.
I mean, that's part of my argument too. Is I mean, my driveway's on Westbourne Road. My house faces at my front door. I mean, for all intents and purposes, my house is on Westbourne Road, and I just think it's sort of like one of these I'm kind of getting stuck in a technicality here a little bit, and
You're not alone.
and I understand that.
Every corner house that we've considered has the same fact pattern, basically. That the part that the town considers as the front yard is what the residents and everyone else, other than whoever wrote the town code, would regard as a side yard. And so we try and accommodate them, and
Yeah.
the way we try and accommodate it is by striking a balance between what the homeowner wants and what we feel is appropriate in the neighborhood. And like I suggested to you, I mean, the homeowner down on Lakeshore didn't want to go with anything other than a 6-foot fence, so they haven't accepted the variance that we offered of the 4-foot fence. But,
I think
that's an individual homeowner's choice. What I'm saying to you is, and what I'm hearing from others on the board, is that we don't like the idea of a wall. So if we aren't dealing with a wall and can accommodate you in another way, I guess what we're saying is, are you agreeable to that, or do you want to just say, if I can't have a wall, then I don't want anything at all?
I certainly am willing to be flexible. I think I just, again, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but the two things I would say, though, to the difference between the other corner lots that may make my situation unique is the fact that there is a gas station, a business that's fairly well traveled across the way. there also is a group home, and I don't mean to harp on this group home because it is what it is, I guess. But the reality is that there is multiple, and I don't have the numbers here, but I would say at least over 10, maybe 12 to 15 times a year, maybe even higher. There are police and fire calls there for people that are mentally unstable, for folks that have run away or are the suspect in some other crime nearby. There's been kids chased from the group home onto my property. I don't mean to keep bringing up the same points, but that does make, in my opinion, my situation unique to these other properties that we've spoken about tonight that don't have a commercial business across the street. They don't have a group home that is routinely visited
Right,
by law
which is-
enforcement and emergency staff.
So an open-style fence of 4 or even 6 feet that is not creating a wall situation, like there are open black fences
Yep.
that are in many places in the town that don't give the effect of a wall. There are black, I don't know what term it is, but they have slender posts every 6 to 8 inches and
Good example's the one that we just approved last,
on St. Paul.
on St. Paul. Did
There's
you
another
see the
one just like it on
just-
Cooper.
Just north of your, the gentleman took a house similar to yours and is redoing it.
I know what house you're speaking
And
about.
he put a pretty heavy-duty black, 4-foot-high, the only thing I didn't like is it had the spikes on the top of it, but a 4-foot-high fence all the way around the yard. And it's a great security fence, and a handsome-looking fence, and it is open. Now, that style fence would work great for your situation, and then if you needed a little more privacy, plant some taller shrubs.
And
But
if I could comment on that also, I mean, we realize that a solid fence is an immediate solution, that you get the privacy you're looking for, and planning things takes time. But, you know, I think about this all the time. Arundecoit is a town for the lifetime. 30 years down the road, are we still going to want to see that white fence, or are we going to want to see shrubs? Arundecoit is a bush, shrub, greenery town, and we recognize it's an immediate fix. Throwing up a fence is an immediate solution. Bushes might take a couple of years to fill out. I mean, we get that, but this is, you have to think about it for the long view. 30 years down the road, what do we want St. Paul to look like? So that's why everyone keeps harping on this open versus closed.
And if it was a closed style fence, I would be more than happy to put those arborvitaes so that even if it was a closed style just wall, I don't want to keep using because it's a derogatory term in this venue, but if it was a wall, I would be happy to landscape that so that it would look brilliant and that everything we've done to my property, I can just tell you
But
that
the
it's
variance,
done.
that variance runs with the land, so the next landowner might not be, well, it might not have a great green thumb, and that person might have the arborvitae fall into
That's my-
disrepair and things like that. So for you, if you have the wall, you might be able to mask it, but that doesn't mean other people are going to be able to, and then we're stuck with the wall again. So I understand your point, but
And that's the other thing too, these shrubs and these bushes that people have up and down St. Paul, I mean, a lot of these people don't take care of that stuff either. I mean, they look unsightly, so
We don't have anything
that's
to
gonna
do
take
with
me
that,
time to trim
unfortunately.
these trees and things like that. That takes time away from my family too. So again, I'm willing to, because I do enjoy taking care of my property. That's not,
That's
I will be
obvious.
happy to
Let
do
me
it.
ask you this question, though. You just told us that if you can have the wall, you have no problem landscaping it with bushes that are going to mask it and make it look real nice. So explain to me the difference between masking an open fence and masking the wall.
Are we speaking about the height specifically, or are we speaking
No, I'm
about?
assuming same height.
You're assuming a 6-foot style fence? I think it's just that one added layer of security and privacy.
Plus the front of our house. We can't put bushes along the front of our house, like,
Right, so she's saying aesthetically, if we ran bushes up north and south, it's not going to carry around to the front of it because we already have bushes up front. It would look
Well, the front of the house is where you have the 2 pine trees, and the fence would be behind the pine trees,
correct.
right?
Correct.
So the pine trees are taking care of that.
Correct.
plus, if you look at
Oh, I see what you mean from a privacy standpoint. Right. She's saying if it was an open style fence, a 4-foot, say, it wouldn't be feasible to plant around it. It would look.
I understand what she's saying.
But a large 6-foot-high fence from the corner of the corner of the front of your house, the right front corner.
Yes.
You're the way it's mapped out here. You're proposing it to come forward, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet, 5 feet, and then go across the front of the yard facing westboard, which is 45 feet of tall fence, and then another 52 feet back down St. Paul Boulevard. So let's take for instance, we rarely, and I don't remember when we've ever approved a 6-foot-high fence out in front of the actual front of the house. Okay, so that's a drawback right there. And then have it that long, because now you're looking at your beautiful home and you have this 45-foot wall next to it. It's going to take away from the nice appearance of your house because you got a good-looking home. And I get it, you looking to block that whole yard in, but it's.
I mean,
not-
those pines will still be there, and that would. block
But it does take away from the overall character of the neighborhood, and it's just not aesthetically pleasing. Even though I know it fixes what you want, it's.
Yeah.
Why the need to come out 10 feet closer to Westbourne?
It just, that's an effort to maximize the
Other
space.
than to add another 450 feet.
It's just to maximize the amount of space we get to use in that yard. Again, the yard that we have right now that's fenced and can be used routinely is just over 300 square feet. So that, to jut out that 10 foot was just to simply even maximize our space. Plus I have a sprinkler or a faucet there, or I can't even think of the name of it right now, but anyways, it's off the side of the house there. It would accommodate being able to water and things from the backyard there too.
I mean, is Mr.
I'm going to make a proposal.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, and this is, and I'm thinking out loud, and I don't really like the tall fence at all, but I'm thinking out loud. If you were at the corner of your sunroom, the corner wall, which is set back, the front corner looking at the house, if you took that fence, if say we did give you a 6-foot-high fence and came out 20 feet, maybe 22 feet out towards St. Paul, and then back toward your rear lot line, which is your north lot line, and then back to the east or to the west, would you accept that? It's a lot less area, but it's still giving you quite a bit of backyard space and side yard space. So
If you're asking me to make a decision between revisiting the open slat type and that, then I would not accept that, no. I just, no matter what, if we're worried about the wall, it's still gonna be a wall. So I don't see how that really changes a whole lot.
it's going to be less of a wall, and it'll be farther back into your yard, so it won't affect the visual as much.
I think the fence that I proposed is gonna be far enough off the sidewalk, landscaped enough to where I really don't, to be honest with you, when you're driving north on St. Paul and you're passing my house, those two pines are going to disguise most of it. There's also there's a taller but smaller tree there. And then with it landscaped, I really don't think it's really going to draw your eye. That's just my opinion. I really don't think it's going to change the aesthetics of the neighborhood other than just improve the beautification of my home. I mean, I'm right there on the corner. There's other homes nearby that aren't nearly as well kept, and they have overgrown bushes and things.
I agree.
To me, this is not only is it my fence and my privacy and safety, but it's also, I can landscape it and keep the ideals of the neighborhood. I can achieve everything as far as I'm concerned.
Let me ask you this. Are you willing to revisit that issue and come up with an alternative? Because I'm getting a sense, and I am not one to speak for the whole board, but I'm getting a sense that you're probably not going to get the wall that you're looking for. If we deny your application, then you can't come back for a year. If you want to go and study it and come up with an alternative that takes into account the concerns that you're hearing from us, I think we might be willing to give you a month to do that. But if you want to go ahead, I mean, the other people have said, no, I don't want to look into anything, and that's fine. If we deny the variance, we'll deny it. If we grant it, fine. But I'm not getting a sense that this is anything that's going over with great appeal to the members of the board.
Again, I'm willing to be as flexible to a certain degree as you need me to be. I guess what
Well, I guess I
particular-
have to take issue with that statement, because what I hear you saying is, I'm willing to be as flexible as I need to be, but I'm going to insist on a wall, and I'm going to dig my heels in when it comes to the wall. And the wall is what we have a problem with, that I'm hearing.
What we would do is table it for a month. You guys talk about it amongst your family and see if there is something like what I just suggested as a consideration or whatever, and then come back next month and either ask us for everything you want or, you know, any compromises or whatever, then we can go from there. It's one way that you can think about it.
Yeah.
If not,
And you can
like
go
you
look
said-
at some of the other places.
I have.
Fences on the other lots.
I have.
Yeah, and you said that you work in law enforcement. From law enforcement's perspective, it's easier to get over a solid wall than it is to get over an open fence. If you have an open fence that's spaced the right way, you're not jumping over it, you're not passing through it, you're not sliding under it. So it actually adds more to security. So an open fence would fit what the town needs and also what you need to do for your family. And if you're going to landscape it anyway, then landscape an open fence, you still have the security there, and you have the landscaping that you're going to do anyway. So it kind of fits exactly, you know, it meets your needs, meets our needs, we're all happy. You can look at another property just next to you, same issues, and it works great for them.
So if I'm understanding, earlier in the conversation, you had said that you weren't talking about eliminating the 6 foot. The 6 foot, keep that, but
I
that,
wasn't. I'm one of 7.
I said, yeah,
Right, I said that,
that's what I meant, yeah,
from my perspective.
correct.
But there's 6 other members of the board who would have to go along and agree to 6 feet as opposed
I recognize, I was just referencing.
Yeah,
the-
no, that's what I had
We're
said,
having.
yeah.
There is, like I alluded to earlier, there is different styles where it creates a slatted offset, like I think they call it Connecticut style, I don't know.
The slatted offset stick as your wall.
I
thought
think the
that's what-
code, I think the code defines what an open style fence is, and I don't think that board on board slatted one, maybe Ms. Ivers could speak to that. I don't think that's an open style fence.
The board on board, the open style generally means that you can see through portions of it where there's
Head
gaps.
straight on, you can see portions
Yeah,
of
so
it.
that there's gaps, so that in that instance, typically the wrought iron gated sort of style, chain link, picket, or the split rail are generally the types of fencing that falls into the category of open. So that in a direct view, perpendicular view, you can see through portions of the fence.
Yeah, so
Which
Well,
they
yeah.
would, this would offer, I mean.
that's the one where you can only see through it at an angle, you can't see through it straight on. And, you know, we're all talking about this, people watch all these. I mean, the law in Arundequoit is you have to have an open style fence. And that's where we have to start from. We have to start from that position, that that's what the town board has said is the required type of fence. So, you know, just putting it out there for you, because I know that from your perspective, it seems like we're giving you a real hard time over this, but the law is open style fence, so that's where we're coming from. And the open style fence is open. I don't think that board on board variated one that you were talking about, I don't think that qualifies.
And just to clarify for anybody watching at home, the limitation for the open style fencing is only in the legal front yard. Just to clarify for folks at
What
home.
this is.
Correct, but I'm just saying, I wanted, in case anybody is ever watching at home.
But
And I'll also give you a lot of credit for coming to us first before you just put it up, and then we might have to make you take it down.
You're welcome. Or maybe I'm welcome. But just real quick on the, because we just said generally and we don't think. I mean, does the language in it preclude me from the open, from that offset, because technically.
It
on
would
an-
need a variance.
Well, right, just because of my linear footage and my height, but I'm just speaking just to the,
I'll check the code for the definition. You're asking for the legal
I think it would
definition.
also require for the style of fence.
So if you said I wanted to do a 4-foot fence that doesn't need a variance, or technically does for half a foot, right? But if you want to, but you made it solid, that's not the fence. You need it to be open style.
yeah, I mean, I understand completely what you're saying about, again, the wall. That's not my intention, is to wreck the aesthetics of this neighborhood in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying, because you're going to be driving on an angle anyway, whatever, that offset look will provide, it's not going to be a solid wall. It's going to be a stylish, well-maintained, nice-looking fence that you can see through, that's landscaped in front of it. It will be, I'd like it to be, not will be, I'd like it to be.
Again, to Mr. Polino's point, that variance go with the property. So what we have to do is we have to preserve a running quiet, not just for this board, but for the next board and the next board and
You could move out in 5 years and somebody could take your property and decide that all that nice landscaping that you put in that softens the wall, that we said was okay otherwise, that they don't want to maintain it, and then it's just easier to just have dirt there and they can rip all that out. And then we're left with a wall that we approved because you maintain your lot well and we're going to landscape it and it wouldn't be so bad. And that's, I'm sure that no matter what we approve, if we approve anything, as long as you're living there, I'm not worried that it's going to be maintained and kept up well. But we have to look at it from the worst possible case scenario, because when we give you permission, we give it to the person that you sell the property to, and the person that they sell the property to, and the person they sell the property to, and that's sometimes where the problems come up.
I realize that part of your obligation here too is not to set, I'm sure, undue precedents and things like that. I guess the one thing I would say to that, and I know we're beating a dead horse, but I do have a couple very unique situations that aren't going anywhere in the foreseeable future.
Right,
That
and that's why I
apply
was-
just specifically to my.
And that's why I was suggesting to you that perhaps you might want to take a month and look at what different style of open fences there are, how they could be landscaped to give you all of the objectives and meet the concerns that we have about a wall in the front yard. You can accept that, but you don't have to.
I will accept that.
All right. I thought that you might. All right. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? I
Mr.
suspect-
Chairman, I got a
Oh, I'm sorry.
question.
Go ahead.
I'm a little confused about open and closed fence. I thought the board-on-board was an open fence. But you're saying it doesn't qualify for that because they overlap?
And they essentially close. You can see at an angle, but head-on, it's solid.
If I can clarify, the code makes reference to front yard decorative fencing, and it says, quote, "Fencing must be of an open type construction," which is what we've been talking about, but the examples it gives are split rail, picket, or the like. So I think what the code is intending is it's intending if you're facing the fence right in front of you that you can see into the yard, that you don't have to be at an angle.
Yeah, a picket fence, I think, is the
Right.
perfect example. A nice little picket fence, you can see right through it.
There are a number that we have approved.
I'm thinking,
None solid, though.
if it's a board-on-board fence, it doesn't give that wall appearance of what he's got in the plan here, this big white solid wall, if it's board-on-board. Now, I'm thinking out loud too, just a little bit here.
Thank you.
It seems like that would be a reasonable compromise. But if we're gonna, if we still have a problem with the board-on-board because it is 6 feet high, then that's totally out of the question. And I have a problem with that because it seems to me the board on board, even though it's not considered open, is a lot more open than the big white vinyl wall that he's talking about putting up.
Oh, I wouldn't argue with you on that.
And I think too, if he was to say, all right, we can do board on board, but I would also want to see it highly shrubmed, even board on board, because it would hide a lot of that and just look nicer.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And that way, if somebody bought the house from him in 20 years and decided they didn't want shrubs, it wouldn't be quite as abusive to the view and the character of the neighborhood if it was board on board. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to throw out my thought on this, that board on board is a good compromise.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone, I'm sorry, did anyone else on the board have anything they wish to say or ask or discussion at all? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? I'm going to assume that there's 5 in the front row who would all speak in favor.
I'm thinking you're right on that.
There was a letter that we received from Mary Hollenbeck, who asked us to give favorable consideration to your application, and she is the crossing guard at the corner, and she's familiar with the same kind of safety things that you had mentioned, and she also is an EMT with the fire department, and she's responded to accidents on the corner, and those are all things that she references in her letter, and she says that she lives across the street from you. So,
Yes, sir.
all right. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Step right up, sir.
Hello, my name is Chris Dorsey. I reside at 5150 St. Paul Boulevard. And as a St. Paul Boulevard resident and a person who travels St. Paul Boulevard every business day to get to my downtown job, I would just like to say that I can't imagine that a board-on-board fence would offend me as I make my daily trip back and forth, especially if it was landscaped properly and maintained well.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about it? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing, and the board will be in recess until 8 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've noticed that some new individuals have shown up here, and I don't think they might know that the other matters have been tabled.
Oh, yes. For the benefit of those who arrived after we started, the applications concerning Densmore Road and Lighthouse Point have been tabled because the seeker process is not yet complete, and it's not possible for us to take action. We are now adjourned until 8 o'clock. present, so we'll take the application on 5150 and 5154 St. Paul Boulevard first. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application concerning the driveway?
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we grant the variance as applied for, based on the following findings. This is a very unique parcel, two parcels rather, in that there's one structure that goes over two parcels. The variance they're requesting is not for the area, the size, the square footage of the driveway, simply the setback because there are two parcels with one house over both of them. It is a minimal variance. It will not affect the character of the neighborhood. It will not have any negative adverse environmental impact. And the need for the variance is not self-created. This is the way the house was built in 1908, and the lot lines followed thereafter. So it's very unique to this property because of the way the lot line is drawn. So on that ground, I move that we grant the variance.
I'll second it.
Well, we'll all second.
We're all second.
Just about.
We're going to vote against, no.
We're all,
Mike.
Mr. LaPerry, second.
Mr. LaPerry.
I heard him first.
again.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. We're all present. Next item is the application pertaining to 2521 St. Paul Boulevard. This is a type 2 action. With the consent of the applicant, I would move that we table this application.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. We all continue to be present. That concludes the cases that were on the agenda for this evening. We received with the packets most drafts of minutes for both the June and July meetings of the board. I believe that everyone was present for both of those meetings, other than Mr. Upson, obviously. So I would move that we accept the June 6th minutes as presented.
Second.
All right, Mr. Thomas seconded that one. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I'll abstain.
Correct. Any opposed? Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 abstention, none opposed, and we are all present. With respect to the July 11th minutes, again, I would move that we accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Evans, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And Mr. Upson continues to abstain. And so that motion carries 6 in favor, no opposed, 1 abstention. We're all present, and I believe that that concludes our business for tonight. So we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Board.